Today we're going to review two sentences we've learned. We learned them closer to the beginning of the year, simple sentence and a compound sentence. We're reviewing for a couple of reasons. For one, the more that we see something, the more it's repeated, the more likely we are to learn it and to use it in our own writing. Second, we're going to be looking at these different types of sentences in the novel we'll be starting tomorrow, and I want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what makes a sentence, what makes a compound sentence, a complex sentence, all the different types of sentences that we've learned. So, to begin, the most basic type of sentence is a simple sentence that only has two words. It's considered a sentence, and we can place a period at the end of those two words because it has two things. Those two things are a subject. Okay, the subject is always going to be a noun, whether it's a person, place, or thing. The two-word sentence also has a verb. The verb shows what action this noun is performing. So if we look at the example to the left, they won. The noun or the subject in this sentence is they. What did they do or what are they doing? They won. Okay, that is a verb showing some kind of action. Because the sentence has a subject and a verb, we can place that period at the end of it right there, and this is considered an independent clause. Remember, that's the academic term for a complete sentence, which means that the sentence forms a complete thought. So, again, that is the most basic type of sentence. Next, we'll take a look at compound sentences. A compound sentence joins two independent clauses or two complete thoughts using a coordinating conjunction. Both of these sentences must have a subject and a verb. And, sorry about that. They are linked together by what we call this word in the middle, a coordinating conjunction, and a comma. Okay, and we'll take a closer look at this in the next slide. Let's take a look at this following example of a correctly written compound sentence. The team won and they celebrated afterwards. This is a correctly written compound sentence because it has a few different things. For one, this first part of the sentence, we can refer to it as an independent clause or a complete thought, which we show by boxing that sentence or that clause in. It's considered a complete thought because it has two things. It has a subject and a verb. In this first independent clause, team is the subject. What did the team do? They won. If we look at the second independent clause, again, we know it's an independent clause because it's boxed in. We use that box to represent a complete thought. We also have a subject and a verb. They would be the subject. What did they do? Celebrated afterwards. Okay, so those are two things we need to make sure we've written a correctly written compound sentence. We need two independent clauses. We have our first one here, our second one here. They both have a subject and a verb. And then we need our coordinating conjunction, which has a comma that is always placed before the coordinating conjunction. These things make this a correctly written compound sentence. As we discussed in class, there are a couple different coordinating conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions, like this word and here in the middle, allow us to link together clauses. In this case, to link together two independent clauses to make a correctly written compound sentence. The other coordinating conjunctions that we discussed this year were the fanboys, if you recall, for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Okay, and we practice writing compound sentences with each of these. I want to address one mistake that I often see when it comes to compound sentences, and this is a mistake. Students will write a sentence such as the following: the team won and celebrated afterwards. They will forget that they need not only a subject and a verb in the first part of the sentence, but that they also need a subject and a verb in this second part of the sentence. If you write it like this, it's going to be incorrect because there is no subject. Okay, I only find the verb, and this would be an incorrectly written compound sentence. It might seem like something small, and I agree, it is, but for purposes of English and grammar and it being correctly written, you do need that subject and the verb in both parts of the sentence. Okay, so again, a compound sentence, in order for it to be considered correct, it must have the independent clause that has a subject and a verb in the first part of the sentence. It must have a comma that goes before your coordinating conjunction. Okay, remember in class we represented the independent clauses like this. And then you must have a second independent clause that also has its own subject and a verb. And if you follow those rules, you will have a correctly written compound sentence. Okay, so we reviewed simple sentences. Compound sentences are nothing more than two simple sentences or two sentences, two complete thoughts that are joined by a coordinating conjunction. And this is the formula that we drew for it in class. We're going to just quickly review it. An independent clause, it gets a box around it because it's a complete thought. And if we wanted to place a period right here where this comma is, we could do that. We could separate the sentence. We could make these two separate sentences, okay? But we're going to take these sentences. We want to join them using our coordinating conjunction, which is shown by the circle in the middle. The coordinating conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. These are also known as fanboys. And they are joined, or they help us to join another independent clause. So there we see there's two sentences. Each independent clause, it's a complete thought because it has a subject and a verb. And it also has a subject and a verb in this independent clause. We'll see an example of what I mean on the next slide.